Hi everyone, Linda here. So today I'm sitting with Lynn Kayser. So Lynn is a yoga teacher and also teaches within the field of Embodied Flow. And we met in Bali a couple of years ago. I was assisting Tara Judell and Scott Lyons at an Embodied Flow training, and Lynn was there participating. And lately we've had some interesting conversations on Instagram around reflections on sensitivity and embodiment and all kinds of things. And that's why I wanted to bring Lynn in for a conversation around these topics, and we'll just see where it takes us. So a very warm welcome to you, Lynn. I'm really, I'm excited and a bit nervous. I don't know why, but you know, as we humans are. Yeah, so I'm really glad that you wanted to jump on this call with me.
Yeah, thank you so much for inviting me and even opening up the whole conversation about sensitive people. That's super interesting, and yeah, really resonates with me. As I texted you earlier, I feel like there's something that really needs to be expressed within me, but I didn't know about it before. And now there's like the chance, the opening through you. So thank you.
Oh.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm just going to start with what can be the simplest or the most difficult question. It's it's a big question, and so it's really just that I would love to hear you just share about yourself. Like, how would you describe yourself? So that can be like how you are in the world, what you enjoy, what you work with, and yeah, a very open question.
Yes, and it is probably the most difficult for me because things change a lot, and especially in the last couple of weeks even, I had quite a few big changes coming in. So I used to be super open, so I didn't have the sense of so much boundaries, and I could enjoy it for quite some years now. I lived in the city, so I kind of dove into the people and into being with everything that was there, basically. But I realized then that this is not so good for my system, that I was oftentimes just overwhelmed by everything, and then couldn't get out for days, and just, I don't know, was hiding in my bed with the blanket over my head. So this happened, and then I made the decision, well, I need to move out of the city, and I need to remember how I felt when I was a child. Because as a child, I grew up in the forest, and my openness wasn't threatened so much by all the influences that are there in the city. So I found this remembering, this remembrance, and also there came a pretty strong feeling of something I would call old inside me that was also maybe we can call it essence, like, oh, this is the Lynn I can remember, who's really can be open and can also just be free to express this openness and be happy with it. Yeah. And then in February this year, I moved to the countryside, and a lot of changes rippled through because of that. I felt more contained again, and this environment feels a lot more safe. So I could drop in more into this openness again, and this feels very, very natural and also interestingly, boundaries began to establish by that. That sounds so contradictory, but as my felt sense of what I am began to establish itself again, my outside became clearer. So this is something else, this is someone else, and this is me. And this made me feel more contained in like myself. Yeah. So this was a long ride. I don't know if this makes sense at all, but
no, it totally.
Yeah. Okay.
Like, wow. Like what I'm hearing it's just you said something that when you're in the city you were super open, but it felt like things were coming more in.
Yeah.
And then because then you said, but now I feel free to express the openness, which feels more like an openness.
Yeah.
Like almost like it flows in a different direction.
Yeah.
And that,
yeah. And also, yeah, it's basically about the input output, because before I felt so I had to digest so much input that there wasn't even the space to have output and to let it flow out again. Yeah.
And what would you say is like your favorite way of expressing this openness, or what is your channel of output? Is there like a specific, or is it?
I found something lately that is just being silly and to stuff that is not in any agenda, or like really just making fun of things, and also dancing in a more stupid way. just what wants to come through. And another thing, I got hooked on birds as I was in Karlsruhe, and a friend had two birds, and they had an influence on me as they kind of opened up my super spontaneous and happy way to communicate. It was so interesting. And that still is like stuck in me, so it's still happening. Yeah. So also I'm talking and singing, this also is amazing. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
And how would you would you use the terms that you're sensitive? Is that something that you sort of identify with, or?
Interestingly, I didn't before I've really started to dive into this theme with you, because I thought for a long time that everyone would be like that, and always wondered why people could take on so much stuff, like so many people around, or just so many things in a day, and not needing a break. And I was more, well, I'm wrong. Something is wrong with me. I'm a kind of very strange sickness, maybe, or yeah. So this is new now that I wouldn't say I would identify with it, because as we are trained in the whole identification tantric philosophy stuff, it bears the danger of just narrowing in on, okay, I'm a sensitive person and I can't do this and this and this because I'm sensitive, or I can do this and this and this because. So I see like, yeah, there are parts of me that resonate a lot, and that's something I really want to explore, actually.
Yeah, I love that, because it's true, as you say, that it can become because I can see that happening a lot, that okay, the thing you say, that feeling of there's something wrong with me, it's something that I hear from students and clients again and again and again. This thing that it seems like that we think that everyone is the same in some way, and there's got to be something wrong with me because I can't keep up with the pace of this modern life.
Yeah.
And then there comes this word, sensitivity, and the explanation, and we get like, and just kind of cling to the word, and it becomes, when we build our whole identity around. So I think it's so wise what you're saying, that it's a part of me. It's a part of me that I can explore, but it's not the wholeness of me. As
Yeah.
we had that conversation on Instagram about where is the sensitivity in the physical body. So for example, from my experience, it's that it's some tissues are more sensitive than others, that it's like, as you're saying, it's a part. But then there are other tissues and other systems in my body that have other qualities that can support this sensitivity, so that it can become more nuanced. And I know you said something about it, having a conversation with your spleen, was it?
Yeah, it was. Yeah, it went on for I don't know, 2 years or something, and still came up yesterday, interestingly, because of the poor boundaries, I couldn't feel myself, and I couldn't distinguish between someone else feeling something and me feeling it. So I was thrown forth and back by this, and I think it just really influenced my spleen, and I felt like it became bigger and even heavier, and I had a pain and couldn't lie on my left side for quite some years, because it had probably so much to do. I don't know. It was so activated by this, well, where am I and where's the other? And it helped me then when I found it, that it was actually, oh, there's the spleen, and what does it do? And there was a friend who told me that you could see it as the planet in the solar system who is keeping track of what is coming in and what is not allowed to come in. And it was like, okay, well, that's exactly the theme, and I need to work on that, and I need to work with that, because that is that is something. And now I'm getting a sense of what boundaries mean, but it's still like, it's not finished.
No. Yeah, getting a sense of what boundaries mean. Yeah. So what do boundaries mean for you? How would you?
There's a book that helped me a lot, and I think you once presented it as well. It's The Enlightenment Process by Judith Blackstone, because she writes that you don't have to get rigid with like having walls around you. This would feel very unnatural for me, because then I used to do it because I felt overwhelmed, and also because of my other job where I work with people a lot, and also heavy stuff is coming in all the time. And so I did like this protection kind of ritual where I put like a bubble around me, and it worked somehow. But then I felt, well, I couldn't use this kind of connection, this flowing of, okay, I can feel him or her, and I can meet him or her where she's at. I couldn't use it anymore with having these walls. And I want to use that because it's there and it helps me a lot. Yeah. So with the book, I found that, well, when I have an anchor inside me that keeps me connected to my body, that could be basically anything and could also switch from day to day, I can come back to that even when heavy stuff is coming from the outside. So I have like this sense of self or part of myself. And then the other thing, the outside thing can flow through, more or less, not all the time, but not because I used to pick it up like a sponge and just stored it, especially like on my shoulders and my belly. And this is not good.
Wow.
Yeah, so now it's more like, okay, well, I am here, I'm like in my back line, I can feel that, and what is coming from the outside is there, and what hits me or what like comes like waves can just flow through me. I don't have to cling to it. And yeah, so boundaries are different than what I thought they were. Yeah.
Yeah, because I mean, the word boundaries, we're thinking that it's something like, yeah, it's a stop.
Yeah.
Which it can be sometimes.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
Yes, and this is something else. Sorry, but
Yeah.
I'm really getting excited about that because I was in a Tara workshop in Karlsruhe, and I experienced that my inner fire actually can be like this stop, because I found my gate to this fire as well. I don't want this. I don't want this. And then this is definitely more stop, and there's like a solid density to that boundary. Yeah, that's very different. That's true. Yeah, that's not less. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, which is very interesting, because then also that the boundaries are not something that it's not always the same. It's not like a line on the map.
Yeah.
But it shifts and changes as our energy levels shifts with our menstrual cycle. It's like what was allowed to pass through me yesterday can be a complete stop. No, today.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
And I think that is why, like, embodiment practices, and just like as you're saying, finding that essence, that that anchor, also can become a way of being able to be with one's own changes, because we are changing constantly.
Yeah.
There was something. What do you think? What was it in you that made you previously, as you said, like a sponge, and then kind of it sounded like you were holding on to things.
Yeah.
What was? Do you have any sort of ideas or thoughts around what was it that made you? Because I think it's a choice.
Oh yeah, it is. Yeah.
That holding.
Yeah, it is a choice, and this is something I just found out, that I had the feeling that I was responsible for whatever was coming at me, because, well, it was coming. So what, I'm responsible. It's something like that. And it probably came from how I experienced my parents, and how I had to, the feeling as a child to take care of them rather than they taking care of me or them. Yeah. So it was unconsciously an unconscious action, and I just got to track it by, well, my body felt like in certain areas very tight after and then, well, what was stored there, and I could feel into it and maybe move it and feel where this is not mine, this is like old things from someone else. And though I got the idea of, well, why and when am I taking on that, and why do I keep it mine? Well, the why is still open. It's something in my system that thinks it's necessary. I don't know.
The responsibility.
Yeah. But now I even can ask the question, when I feel this pattern of, okay, well, I'm taking it. I have like broad shoulders and I'm very strong, so I can take it. Well, but do I have to? Is it really necessary? So, or can I just give it back because the person himself or herself can take it? Yeah.
And I think that they can. I just remember it was like a YouTube video. We had a conversation, this conversation about what happens in relationships where there is that pattern.
Oh yeah.
And just something that I started like pondering upon after that was that, in my own experience, I mean, some relationships, they end. Like, I've noticed that when I no longer take that responsibility, the energy exchange of the or dynamic of the relationship, when that disappears, the whole relationship was built upon that dynamic, which is of course it has to have a period of grieving afterwards. But then in some relationships I'm like, wow, that this is actually empowering for the other person, that I start to believe that they have the capacity to take responsibility for themselves, instead of me being the one who thinks that I have to do it because no one else will. Which is like, and then it becomes like this a whole different dynamic, and the relationship grows and becomes so much more interesting. So it can go like, do you have any experience of that? Or
Yeah, I actually would say, well, with two people, especially right now, where this is happening, that it's also, I was a little afraid of that, but as I got like this mini conversation with you, and I also knew heads up that maybe this will change now our original relationship, because I'm not the same. So as this happens, obviously the contact or the connection will shift and change. So this was a little frightening, but then it was a relief, basically, because I felt more space around me to express, and just I didn't have to be careful or watch after the other so much anymore. So this felt very freeing. And then also in talks, I realized, as you said, the other one was so empowered and was so much bigger, actually, by me just, handing this back and say, well, I can support you when you ask me, and we can find like each other in that setting. But otherwise, you can do it. Yeah, this is amazing. It feels more like, I don't know, I have just a vague picture of like plants growing more like each of them next to each other, and like their wholeness.
yeah, beautiful. And it sounds like, if I speak from my own experience, it was, for a long period of time, I kind of coupled sensitivity with overwhelm. I thought that I have this very sensitive part of myself, or I have several sensitive parts of myself, and I will always be experiencing a lot of overwhelm, because that is what it's like for sensitive people. But what we're talking about now, and what in my experience, it's also that I realized that no, it's not. Sensitivity does not equal overwhelm. It's just this I think, and what I'm hearing from you as well, is that if we haven't been supported to in our sensitivity, and maybe not supported growing up, that's when we get very prone to overwhelm. But as we learn to support ourselves and to support other people in that way, no, I can't take this on. This is yours. Then slowly that overwhelm starts to, it's not as frequent, or yeah.
Yeah, but still I feel I have to be on the lookout. So as the supporting myself is not as it's not an habit or already, it's on the way, but I feel like, well, sometimes I have this urge to be in a big crowd of people, and I can do this and I feel ready for it. And then, well, after that, it might not feel as great as before. But, it's more negotiable. Yeah.
Yeah, negotiable. Yeah.
Thank you.
I don't know if I said it right either, but yeah. Yeah. So do you feel like it sounds like you're a person that likes to be around people, like in crowds? Would you say, like, or
Yeah, that's something this is also interesting, because I thought like people annoy me and they are just very exhausting to my system. But somehow I have to be with them. But then it switched to, well, I actually like to be with people and I really need that. And yeah, it's a part of me that wants to be with people and wants to be expressed, and this group feeling. It doesn't have to be a large group, but yeah, people. I need people. Yeah. So this was when I found, well, in what areas of my life do I have this full body yes, because I felt a lot of full body no's, and I didn't want to find my path in life through all the no's, but also, well, what is actually giving me this, oh, well, yeah, here is where I want to be. And this was in moments where I were with people, and where I was actually able to still be with myself and also feel them, because this is like the ultimate thing for me, to be in this shared space but not lost.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, because we need each other. It
Yeah.
can become so easy if you have that sensitive part or sensitive streak to withdraw or isolate, because it becomes too much. But then that I don't think that is always beneficial or healthy. And I think a lot, I mean, also in this very, how do you say it? Independent, like independence is so at the moment, no individualistic society. It becomes this thing that we're going to do everything on our own. I can do this by myself, but we so need each other, like, to fulfill our nature.
Yeah. And I experienced a rough time when I moved in here with my boyfriend, and this is the first time where I experienced actually support and how this sensitivity plays out sometimes. And this was and still is such a relief with, well, I don't have to do it all by myself. I have this support, and also I can support him. And this is yeah, I think otherwise, when we try to be everything on our own, we just harden. And it's not like I have this picture of a web of life. Like, this is a web, and as I find you, you find me, and this is so necessary. Yeah.
Yeah, and then people find us through this conversation, and it opens and it ripples out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I just got like goosebumps all over my body.
Yeah. I'm just curious about, you said that sometimes in your relationship, you moved in with your boyfriend, and you said sometimes the sensitivity plays out. What do you mean by that?
Yeah, this unpredictable thing. So
the unpredictable human nature.
Yes. Something like that. So I'm very and I'm still learning how to really take on this, well, this frame he offers me to play out all these different parts, and that I don't have to, because this is another thing I think that is important with sensitivity, to hold back. I used to hold back myself and everything I felt, because this was too much for me, and also I thought too much for someone else, of course, and I didn't know how to express it. So like several things, and also I was so busy with like the other things that were coming in, and whether mine or whatever, not mine, all chaos inside. So how to let that out, I didn't know. So this is new. And it gets clearer through that, actually, when I let out bit by bit, and I begin to like on Monday I had a meeting, and it was cruel to my system. And I came home and could feel, well, I need to let that out in some way. And I got the clarity of, this is not, I took on stuff again. This is not mine, but it is in my system and I just need to let it out. And then there's this clarity when stuff can flow through and didn't get like hold back all the time. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh my God, that is like such a, like my whole body just, yes. Just the realization, okay, I took on something that is not mine. I just need to let it out. And that's okay. That there is not then the continuing narrative of why am I doing this again? And why does this happen? Because I find that it's very easy to go in that direction also. And just this happened, now this has to happen. And that's it. Yeah.
So we ended up just complaining and really like getting really loud about like all the shit the people out there. But it's not, well, it's us, but still. It was good.
Yeah. It is interesting though what you said about this too much and the unpredictable, because I also have this, sometimes I have these thoughts that, well, I mean, aren't all people unpredictable? Doesn't all people feel all these things? How do they, are they, but maybe, because I do, I mean, and I do question sensitivity a lot. I can feel it, but I'm not like I'm still questioning, aren't we all sensitive? In some way?
And it's maybe it needs because what I experience is that some people are kind of cloaked with these walls or masks or however you want to call it, and they protect themselves also from feeling stuff in them or also around them, probably. So this is why I used to think, well, aren't all people like this? And the interesting thing is when you work with someone who you thought of not being as sensitive and you open up this sensitivity, then suddenly it is there, so they can feel it or something or whatever. And so I don't know.
It's like I'll continue to use the word and work with people who kind of feel drawn to it, but I'm still questioning. Which I think is important to not like
it is important. Yes, and it is so important because as there is a huge bunch of people who's not aware of it, they kind of terrorize the people who are aware of it. And also themselves, of course, but as this plays out, I think we see on a global level as well. So many people lost touch with this sensitivity and this sense of, well, we are dependent upon each other, we are a web, and what I do will affect the surroundings in like big ways.
And I just got this thought about the too much, about being too much. I also have that. Not as frequently anymore, but it used to be very strong in me. Was I too much now? I don't want to be too much, not too much. And then I realized, well, some people will actually think I'm too much. But that's okay.
This is it is probably the being okay with conflict, or just with like, well, there is another and this is me, so like this This is also interesting because I had this fight yesterday, and I really hate fights, and I really are all about harmony. And I realized this is not so beneficial, because when I have the other and I have this sense of, well, I can be different from this person, and I can be not as pleasing, because this is actually not what is right now. And that is okay. So it creates a sense of me again. And this is very empowering and very amazing, actually.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think something about this pleasing, or like checking, am I too much? How can I just like keep everything? It creates this almost false sense of belonging. It's like if I speak for myself, I did it because I wanted to be loved and wanted to feel that I belong here and wanted to be welcomed. But then I still felt lonely.
Yeah.
And I just couldn't understand it. I was like, I'm sitting here in a room full of people and I feel lonely. How is that? I feel completely alone. How is it possible? And I'm doing everything I can to make them love me, and still I feel alone. And it becomes this, like, I'm trying to belong through making myself what you want me to be, what I think that you want me to be. But then when that starts to change, and even as you said, like, even being able to be in conflict, I'm realizing, like, with my partner, that conflict is intimacy. It's intimacy to be able to say, no, I don't like this.
Yeah.
And go into that conflict, and that brings us closer together, and a sense of belonging and a sense of community starts to grow from that.
This is interesting.
Yeah, which is like such a paradox, at least from my sort of where I stand.
Yeah, it is. Because I also used to think, well, when I'm going into conflict, I will be, I don't know, abandoned. I'm not part of the group or whatever thing anymore. But then, as you just found such good words for it, this felt sense of loneliness must have been there already, because otherwise I wouldn't have this urge to connect so much.
Yeah.
Would be fine with, well, we can go like in disconnect. I can say no and you can say no and I still be fine.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's interesting.
So there is this, I noticed this addiction to connection that I had. I needed to connect to people. I needed to feel them and take on their stuff, because this was my, well, now I feel somehow I belong. So I would call it that way. Yeah. Interesting. Good.
Yeah.
Like, yeah.
Yeah. This is why I love conversations, because things come up and it's like something's happening.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, as I said, like the conversation you opened up already rippled through me in so many ways, and it's still like, I even did the first video of your mini series. I just could do that, like the lecture and the practice part, and I'm still sitting with it. I couldn't do the second because I'm still with, well, in like so many moments I don't feel safe inside me. It's such a huge work to do. This is it already. So, whoa, why do I teach yoga classes when I just could do this for like my whole life?
Yeah, I'm starting to realize, I was like, when I did that mini series, like the free one page thing. So I was like, I just want to take like small nuggets from the work that I do to give people a sense. And I've realized, I was like, whoa, maybe I took like the biggest nugget, like the biggest things, and put them into small nuggets, and now people can work with that for years.
Yeah, it feels like that. Yeah, it was extremely rich. It was so super rich. Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow. Like, yeah, even though like all the things you said in the lecture were like familiar somehow, but they had a depth to it that I didn't think about before. I didn't, like, I felt them, but I couldn't put them into words. And this sometimes is the challenge then. I think when you can put something in words, then it starts to really land and this happened. And then also the practice, it's so simple, but it's such a wow. A rabbit hole of things coming up.
Okay. Yeah, interesting. But I think that is something over the years that I've learned, is that it's usually like the small and the simple but well digested things that have the most potency. It's like I have this group of women that that come to I have a yoga space at my house, and they come once a week for 2 hours. And I love, like, a lot of most of the time of those 2 hours, we have conversations and sharings. But then I realize sometimes I'm like, well, they could also just come for 15 minutes. And that would be like, and just take that one thing, and then we could work with that one thing for 1 month from those 15 minutes. Yeah.
Wow. Yeah. And this is also a relief, as I don't have to take on so much information and It's more important for me to let it land and let it become my own experience in a way. So whatever that is, and then I can pass that on to someone else. And because we are in a time and living in a society where it's all about more and more information, and it's not necessary, and I think also not healthy.
No.
Like our digestive tract is like in all overwork.
Yeah. It's so much richer, as you say, to take one thing and then really be with that one thing. Yeah, I've done that a lot. I remember, like, when I started practicing with Tara, and I did my first training in 2015 in Greece. And I just she asked this question after a morning meditation. She was like, how do you experience formlessness and form in everything? And I was like, I'll take that question for the next 5 years. It's like, I don't need, like, that's enough.
Yeah.
And I think I did a meditation, like a course with Sally Kempton. And in the first section, I think it was like 15 minutes in, it was like a practice just to ask yourself, if this was your last moment, how would you want to be here now? Like, what would you want this moment to be? I was like, that is a potent practice. Like, I don't need to do the rest of the course. I'll just take that one.
Yeah.
Because then everything else becomes just information.
Yes. Yeah. Too much. So thank you for working in this way. That's so important right now. It gives it allows me to digest, and it allows me to slow down and to just live the way my system actually wants to live, in a more easeful and more happy way, actually. This is also freeing.
Thank you. Wow. Okay. It's been a wonderful conversation, and I hope that those of you that are listening found this interesting, and that you found your own kind of nuggets. Something, just take one little thing to carry. And thank you, Lynn. Like, I just such a rich and honest and authentic sharing.
Thank you. And I also feel like some of this whoosh energy that was there in the beginning now could settle a bit more. But it's a picture of how much there was to be like wanted to be there and seen, and super interesting. So
Thank you.
Thank you.